Krishnam Dvishatopi Siddhi. Yam yogina samsprihayanti samyag. Yogena kastadviraham saheta. Drishta bhavadbhirnanu rajasuye. Chaidyasya Krishnam Dishatopi Siddhi. Krishnam Dishatopi Siddhi. Yam yogina samsprihayanti samyag. Yogena kastadviraham saheta. Drishta bhavadbhirnanu rajasuye. Chaidyasya Krishnam Dvishatopi Siddhi. Yam yogina samsprihayanti samyag. Yogena kastadviraham saheta. Drishta vabhadbhirnanu rajasuye. Chaidyasya Krishnam Dvishatopi Siddhi. Yam yogina samsprihayanti samyag. Yogena kastadviraham saheta. Drishta bhavadbhirnanu rajasuye. Chaidyasya Krishnam Dvishatopi Siddhi. Yam yogina samsprihayanti samyag. Yogena kastadviraham saheta. Drishta. It has been seen. Bhavadbhihi. By your good self. Nanu. Of course. Rajasuye. In the assembly of the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthir. Chaidyasya. Of the king Chedi. Shishupal. Krishnam. Unto Krishna. Dvishittaha. Envying. Api. In spite of. Siddhihi. Success. Yam. Which. Yoginaha. The yogis. Samsprihayanti. Verily desire. Samyak. Fully. Yogena. By performance of yoga. Kaha. Who. Tat. His. Viraham. Separation. Saheta. Can tolerate. Translation. You have personally seen how the king of Chedi, Shishupal, achieved success in yoga practice, although he hated Lord Krishna. Even the actual yogis aspire after such success with great interest by performance of their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from him? Purport. Lord Krishna's causeless mercy was exhibited in the great assembly of Maharaj Yudhishthir. He was merciful even to his enemy, the king of Chedi, who always tried to be an envious rival of the Lord. Because it is not possible to be a bona fide rival of the Lord, the king of Chedi was extremely malicious toward Lord Krishna. In this, he was like many other asuras, such as Kamsa and Jarasandha. In the open assembly of the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Shishupal insulted Lord Krishna, and he was finally killed by the Lord. But it was seen by everyone in the assembly that a light flashed out of the body of the king of Chedi and merged into the body of Lord Krishna. This means that Chedi Raj achieved the salvation of attaining oneness with the Supreme. which is a perfection most desired by the Gyanis and Yogis, and for which they execute their different types of transcendental activities. It is a fact that persons who are trying to understand the supreme truth by their personal endeavors of mental speculation or mystic powers of yoga achieve the same goal as others who are personally killed by the Lord. Both achieve the salvation of merging into the Brahma Jyoti rays of the transcendental body of the Lord. The Lord was merciful even to his enemy, and the success of the king of Chedi was observed by everyone who was present in the assembly. Vidura was also present there, and therefore Uddhava referred the incident to his memory. And again, the translation: you have personally seen how the king of Chedi, Shishupal, achieved success in yoga practice, although he hated Lord Krishna. Even the actual yogis aspire after such success with great interest by performance of their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from him? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutabad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're continuing again one of the most nectarian chapters of third canto, or of Bhagavatam altogether. Again, I said a few weeks ago when we first started this chapter that I was really excited when we started this because I was going through the third canto. Well, after the second canto, I really got in the mindset of I just have to hold on until 10th canto. The second canto really can sometimes do that to you. Until you really get deep into it, you can't really relish the nectar. It gets a bit dry and abstract. So I was waiting and I started third canto and I thought I'm just still in that mindset. I'm going to push through and then I'll get to that 10th canto nectar, and then this chapter came along and I thought, okay, there we go. Jai. The oldest nectar is here. And then of course the rest of third canto, for the first reading at least, it really sets you back on course, and then I was relishing again the pastime and wasn't in such a sahajiya rush to the 10th canto. But this text specifically is a very sweet one. Shishupal's pastimes, as we know, are very gloriously concluded and described in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. And we hear such wonderful glorifications of Shishupal. Shishupal reminds me very much of Putana. Putana especially. Because they are both demonic personalities that are used to illustrate actually the full mercy of the Lord. So, Shishupal is glorified like this. And he's glorified in a similar way as Kamsa is. We read in Bhagavatam that Kamsa, he would spend every single moment of his life in fear of Krishna, and therefore he also became Krishna conscious. And a very similar thing happens with Shishupal. And then we all know in the Rajasuya sacrifice, there's the glorification. Who was as great a devotee as Shishupal? Every single moment Shishupal spent absorbed in hateful remembrance of the Supreme Lord. What then to speak of the remembrance of those who remember the Lord constantly with love. Very famous passages, very sweet passages as well. Sometimes I find when there's overviews of the Bhagavatam, everyone sort of skips the first chapter or so in order to get into Nrsimha Dev's pastimes with Prahlad Maharaj. But actually that first chapter is just as nectarian. In many ways it's just as nectarian as the rest of the 7th canto. But we read here that Shishupal, he obtains liberation. He obtains some sort of impersonal liberation into the body of the Lord. However, we read in Laghu Bhagavatamrita that it was actually kind of like he went into the body of the Lord and then he bounced back into his personal form as a gatekeeper in Vaikuntha. And we hear this about a lot of the demons in Vraj, actually. A lot of them actually did receive some sort of Vaikuntha liberation. We know Putana received so much more. But most of them did receive some form of Vaikuntha liberation. So the Acharyas describe when it's like they're merging into the body of Krishna, it's like they merge there and then they sort of bounce up as well. So there's various reasons given for the different descriptions of that. And in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's a shlok that I tried memorizing last night, but now that I'm here, I've forgotten. But there's a shlok that's speaking specifically about this very principle. And it speaks about the mercy of Krishna. We read in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishna, he does not kill any demons. All of the violence done, apparent violence in his pastimes, is done by Vishnu inside of Krishna. Krishna is playing, and when it's time to actually kill a demon, then even though Krishna appears to be doing it, Vishnu does it. In the same way as most of the time when we do deity worship, even though Radha Krishna are before us, we're actually worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. Because how can we approach Radha Krishna through deity worship? Normally it's through bhakti, or rather like rag bhakti and all of these sort of rasic things. So in general, when the deities are worshipped, it's the Lakshmi Narayan inside of Radha Krishna who receive most of that worship. That Aishvarya mood is mainly received by them. So in a similar way, when it comes time to do the messy job of, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. When Krishna comes down for this aspect, this is sort of executed by Vishnu. But we shouldn't think then that Krishna is completely detached from such pastimes. Because when Krishna kills a demon, the killing might be done by Vishnu, but the mercy still comes from Krishna. Because that's why Krishna killing is always merciful. The mercy always comes from Krishna, even if the killing comes from Vishnu. And this is why we'll see in Shastra, we find very, very few times, actually, that liberation even is given by a form that's not Krishna. There are some exceptions, but the general trajectory is, it's mainly Krishna who gives out liberation, and Krishna does give out liberation. We're going to hear in tomorrow's shlok, we're going to read about how Krishna very generously gives out liberation to everyone and anyone really who's involved in his pastimes. Even higher than this though, only Krishna gives bhakti. Maybe you can find one example of the contrary, I haven't yet, but pretty much Krishna is the only one who gives bhakti with one exception, one very specific exception. Nrsimha Dev is the only other form that gives bhakti. We know when he touches Prahlad Maharaj's head, he gives him bhakti. But this is because Nrsimha Dev, he plays a very special role. Prahlad Maharaj was still a Krishna bhakt. Nrsimha Dev comes as Bhakti Vigna Vinashan, to remove obstacles on the path to bhakti. Which is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has actually written a really beautiful bhajan for Nrsimha Dev. And in it he prays, "Oh Nrsimha Dev, please carve away all the anarthas in my heart so that I may have space for Radha Madhav." So, like this, Nrsimha Dev is very much intimately tied to Krishna. Which is why sometimes, actually, when in Mayapur, when they installed the beautiful Nrsimha Dev deity there, all of the other Gauriya Vaishnavas especially, from the other groups and all, they came with great curiosity. They thought, what are Gauriya Vaishnavas doing, worshipping Nrsimha Dev? Sometimes that connection is not so apparent. But actually there's a deep connection. Because we do not wish to come with our demonic tendencies before Radha and Krishna. And no one is greater at killing demons than Nrsimha Dev. So, but to come back to the main point, Krishna, he is the one giving this mercy. And so in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's this great glorification of Krishna. How merciful is Krishna? Even those Krishna kills, he gives such great mercy to. And the purport lists the many cases that are mentioned in that text. The purport, actually in Brihad Bhagavatamrita and the BBT editions, the purports are a hybrid purport. They're a mixture of Sanatana Goswami's and Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu's commentaries. In the end, he gives a reference for how you can tell which part is his, which one isn't, but it's a little hard to tell. But anyways, in that purport, so I'm not sure who to ascribe it to, but in that purport, we find descriptions of all of these pastimes. We hear about how Kamsa, what mercy Krishna gave Kamsa. By extending, Krishna could have killed Kamsa like before he even came out of the womb. But what mercy he gave to Kamsa, that he allowed Kamsa and all of that tension to constantly worry about Krishna, worry about Krishna, worry about Krishna. So much spiritual advancement Kamsa made while trying to kill Krishna. In constant meditation of how to kill Krishna, Krishna gave Kamsa so much mercy. Also the wrestlers, Krishna and Balaram, they kill in the arena. They, in Bhagavatam it's described, they arrange for their funerals to be performed and everything. What mercy is that? Also with Jarasandha, it's described in that purport, that Balaram actually in his activities, he's increasing the fame of this king. He's increasing his fame and giving him so much mercy by the pastimes that occur with him. And then lastly, there is one case that's mentioned. But this case is a bit, how to say, I think a little different than the others. It's a very unique case in Krishna Leela. Of course, every one of Krishna's Leelas is unique. If you study any one of them, at one point you'll reach something and you'll think, wow, this is very unique, very splendid. And in fact, they're all infinitely unique, because who can exhaust all of the features in each pastime? But in regards to the many people that Krishna fights, there's one pastime that's very unique for many different reasons. And we first hear about, we hear the build-up to it in Braj. So it's part of the Braj Leela. And Balaram and Krishna, I wrote down the shlok here, they're running around in Vrindavan. They're running around in Braj, they're having a nice time. And all of the people in Braj, they're completely in love with them, as you would be if Krishna and Balaram were running around. And every day they would be taken care of. In Bhagavatam it says, Tayor Yashoda Rohinyao Putrayoho Putravatsale. And this shlok is this half shlok is very interesting. Because this Tayor and Putrayoho, in Sanskrit when we hear Yor, it actually means Yoho. It's because of the grammar it changes. This is the jewel. It means two. It's the jewel case. Because in English we have singular and plural. Sanskrit has a third one. It has singular, jewel, and plural. So if you say, in Sanskrit you'll say there's one microphone, two hands, and 4 devotees. Those are all 4 different things. So you don't jump straight to the plural. So the plural is being used this whole time. Grammatically, you could separate Krishna and Balaram, but they're put together to show that everyone's love was equal for the two. And Yashoda and Rohini, they're put together as one word. It is a compound word. So together, all of their mood was. It is not that Rohini loved Balaram a little more. Collectively, everyone in Braj was completely absorbed in these two. They were completely in love with them. Putrayoho. Putra means like sons. So these 2 sons of theirs, and even not their biological mothers, as much as we can speak of biological mothers in Krishna Leela. Not even their biological mothers. Everyone, from the cows to the elderly gopis, they were all filled with that parental love. And all of the other rasas that we know about. So like this, constantly they would be running around. And Rohini and Yashoda, they would always be so eager to feed them. We know that famous pastime of Krishna when he's eating mud. And Mother Yashoda, she goes, after hearing Balaram. She actually didn't believe it when all the other boys came. But she said they lie about Krishna all the time to get him in trouble. They're always actually lying about Krishna, saying Krishna did this, Krishna did that. And Mother Yashoda, she started to learn, actually these guys are lying because they enjoy seeing me chastise Krishna. So, but when Balaram comes, she thinks, oh, Balaram wouldn't. Balaram is Ram. He is Ram in Krishna Lila because he is the Maryada Purush in Krishna Lila. He embodies all of the ethical norms. He's a very ethical person, just like Ramchandra, which is why we can often find, especially in Bhagavatam, when Balaram is described being very ethical, very moral, or appreciating Aishwarya, he's often referred to as Ram, to echo this, because he's the Maryada Purush of Vraj Lila. So when Balaram says it, then it must be true. So Mother Yashoda, she goes up to Krishna and she sees inside Krishna's mouth. But why is she so worked up? It's not because she cares for the hygiene too much. Little children can eat anything, really. And it just makes them all the stronger. Mother Yashoda's main pain is she thought, is the food that I'm giving Krishna so bad that Krishna wants to eat mud? Am I not pleasing Krishna enough? Mother Yashoda, such a great devotee. Her first concern is, am I not pleasing Krishna enough? Is my food not sufficient? So she runs to Krishna just to verify if it's true and to say, should I maybe get someone else to cook for Krishna? Maybe Rohini can cook better for Krishna than I can. She's with this worry, she runs up and she checks. So we can imagine with people with this sort of mood, how wonderfully fed Krishna and Balaram were. Running around like this, having so much fun. And sometimes even Krishna, he would come. And Mother Yashoda, of course Krishna, she knew Krishna would have to become a man. He would have to grow up and be a man. But still, Krishna will always be her little baby boy. And so, because this is just after Gopashtami, when Krishna is now being recruited as a cowherder, so he's now working hard in the fields as a 6-year-old boy, slaving away. And Mother Yashoda, she's so hurt by seeing this. Of course Krishna knows. Sometimes he's aware and sometimes he is mugdha. The Acharyas say, sometimes he forgets he's God, but sometimes he kind of knows he is. He remembers that. A little fun fact about himself. So, he's aware of this. So sometimes, just to please Mother Yashoda, because we shouldn't think that it's just Krishna being pleased, it's also all of his devotees. So Krishna, he'll tell Mother Yashoda, he'll say, when I go out in the fields, all the boys, they don't do any work. This is a lie, of course. All of the boys, they don't do any work. They expect me to do all the work. And here I am laboring away, I'm sweating, my arms are sore, my feet are sore. I can't do this work. Mother Yashoda, I'm sorry, but tomorrow I'll have to take the day off work. I'm going to have to call in sick tomorrow. And Mother Yashoda, she'll be very happy. She'll think, wow, this is very good. I just want Krishna to stay at home. It hurts me so much to see him work so hard with all those calves, all of those cows. Too difficult. So he would stay back like this. So like this, these loving exchanges would happen. And so Krishna and Balaram completely infatuated all of Vraj. But one night, Krishna and Balaram, they were lying down together. They were sleeping. And when they would fall asleep, Mother Yashoda, she would be very careful. She would tell all of the maidservants and everyone, be quiet, they're sleeping. No one wake them up. For 2 reasons. One, because she loved them so much and she wanted them to have a nice sleep. And the other, because when they're awake, they kind of cause a few headaches. So, so there was 2 benefits to it. But even with this, at one point, Krishna started yelling out, Ma, 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 where are you? Why have you abandoned me? And this was very dramatic. And Mother Yashoda would run to Krishna and she'd say, why are you so concerned, Krishna? What's the problem? He said, Ma, I had a nightmare. A really bad nightmare. Mother Yashoda said, okay, then you can come sleep with me and your father tonight. So you feel safe. And Krishna, he said, okay. And he would go and he would sleep with them. But in the middle of the night, he would get these sweats. He would break into sweats with the nightmares he was having. And sometimes he would grab and cuddle Mother Yashoda, and other times he would go and he would cuddle Nanda Maharaj. And at one point they said, Krishna, what are the nightmares you're having? And Krishna would say, it's the same nightmare again and again and again. I'm here on the south of the Jamuna. and somebody pushes me in, and I'm drowning in the Jamuna. Somebody pushes me in, some rascal, I don't know who, pushes me in, and I'm drowning and drowning and drowning. But later on we'll find Krishna's dreams are realer than our realities. What does Prabhupada describe? This whole material world is just Mahavishnu's dream. Prabhupada describes it. What then to speak of Krishna's dream? What to speak then of Krishna's dreams? All of Krishna's pastimes are one with Krishna, and Krishna is absolute reality, absolute truth. And if his dreams are part of his pastimes, then surely they must be true. And they will become true as we continue on. So, then, the next morning, Krishna, he's deciding to go around. He's running around, but this time he leaves Balaram at home. Because he's about to go to the southern part of the Jamuna. And of course, the Jamuna is very long, very beautiful. In the Padma Purana, we find a description of Vrindavan, and it describes Vrindavan like a body, or the trees are like hair, something like this, a little bit like the universal form, but much more nectarian. And so we find the description of all of these parts. And the Jamuna is described like the backbone or the spine of Vrindavan. The Jamuna holds everything together. Everything is held together. Therefore, we know Prabhupada, he's so much like Jaya Radha Madhava. Jamuna Tira Banachari. And Srila Prabhupada would say, the Jamuna, the gopis, Krishna, the cowherd boys, everything is there. Prabhupada would often describe Jaya Radha Madhava like this. Everything is there. So we have the real essentials of Raj Leela in this bhajan, and therefore we find Jamuna Tira Banachari. This is the spine of Vrindavan. This is the spine which holds together all of Raj. And so, that being said, in a little southern section of it, there's a bit of a complication there. There's a little disturbance in the Jamuna. There is a certain snaked demon who is spreading some poison there. He is poisoning the area. And the reason why he's in the south is if he was in any other section, his poison would spread out to Mathura. And then actually quite a few other places, Mathura and other cities which are connected further down. But in the south area, he was sort of separated from the rest of the water flow, and therefore only his own reserved area was poisoned. The Kaliya lake, my spiritual master, he says, sometimes we see in India, so many places have such beautiful names. And yet, what will they do? The Indian government will decide, let's take this beautiful name of this street and rename it after some rascal politician. And therefore, we take something beautifully named and give it such an ugly name. Also, we'll find in Vrindavan, we know that the road in which we enter Vrindavan is called Bhaktivedanta Marg. It's the Bhaktivedanta road, which is very deep when we think about it, because Srila Prabhupada, anyone who enters into Vrindavan now has to enter through Bhaktivedanta Marg. Who can enter into Vraj without Srila Prabhupada's mercy? So it's a very deep thing. Actually, the government, without realizing it, has expressed its in deep knowledge of Vaishnav Tattva. But now every single group, Sahajiya or not, is arguing, we want a section of the road to be renamed the name of our Guru. Why only this Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada? Why only him? We want to rename it this and this and this and this. So sometimes we find places are renamed for good reason, and other times we find for not so good reason. And this is a not so good reason. People started referring to this area as Kaliya Lake, because of the Kaliya demon who was there. And we know the descriptions. The birds would drop down from the sky because of the wonderful water cycle was now carrying his poison. The water was boiling. All the trees were dead. Very, very bad. Anyway, so Krishna, and in Bhagavatam he is described as Bhagavan when he's going down. This is very intentional. Bhagavatam is written by Shukdev Goswami, Mahakaviraj. Every word choice is very intentional. So he's described as Bhagavan in order to emphasize that Krishna, he knows what's going to happen here. He's very well aware of his activities. And this is why he goes without Balaram. Some acharyas say that he went without Balaram because it was Balaram's birthday, which is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's favorite reason. Anytime Krishna is mentioned leaving without Balaram, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I found in my experience, every time he'll say it was Balaram's birthday. So Rohini kept him home. I don't know why, but Chakravarti Thakur really loves this reasoning. And so we can give all respects to it. It is true. Of course, our acharyas have said it. But our acharyas give many different reasons. One of them is that Balaram was left behind. Because as we'll know later on in the pastime, he plays a very central role in making sure that everyone doesn't dive in as well. Another reason why is that Krishna was thinking, if I bring Balaram, I'm about to fight this Kaliya. Balaram, he is the king of snakes. He is Ananta Shesh. He might get confused. Which side do I root for? Do I side with my brother Krishna or my brother Kaliya, the snake? So Krishna might get confused. Which team am I batting? Balaram might get confused. Which team am I batting for? So Krishna said, better I spare him this existential crisis and I leave him at home. And another reason why is that Balaram, again, he's Maryada Purush. Seeing Krishna struggle, and Krishna, again, he's Bhagavan, he knows he's going to do this pastime of struggling. Balaram, his heroic mood will kick in, and he'll want to dive in, and then he'll ruin all the fun. Because Krishna has a lot of fun being held for around 6 hours, my spiritual master says. 6 hours, roughly, Krishna is held in the coils of Kaliya. So, because of these reasons, Krishna, he went along. And in Bhagavatam, it's described, Shukdev Goswami, he says, "Oh Raja," referring to Maharaj Parikshit. But another way we can take this word Raja is to mean a certain type of beauty that Krishna had. Because Krishna was not wearing any of his special ornaments. Normally he's running around with a garland and all of these gems, all of these jewelries, the beautiful earrings. None of that was there. Krishna, he was just unornamented. But we know all the ornaments in Krishna, they do not make him more beautiful, he makes them more beautiful. So how beautiful was Krishna? And all the gopas, they were with Krishna as well, surrounding him in a circle. And the reason why some of them are a little ahead of him is because Mother Jashoda, she said, you need to protect Krishna. Make sure he never gets hurt. So they weren't just ahead of him, they were actually around him on all sides. That is one reason. The other reason why is, especially on this day, Krishna was so beautiful without his ornaments. A unique type of beauty. This is a beauty that's not so often seen. So all the gopas, they wanted to relish it. So they were moving like this in a group. However, when they saw the water down at Kaliya's lake, suddenly they became very thirsty. And they all ran ahead. They all ran ahead very quickly. Now, some people wonder, in the description, why? Why did Krishna let them run ahead? Why did Krishna walk slowly? Why did Krishna not stop them? The reason why is Krishna, even though Kaliya he's relocated to Vrindavan, Krishna's coming to his house. We hear that Kaliya actually uses his mystic potencies to build a nice house under the water, out of water inside there, a little palace for him and all of his wives. So some people wonder, why did Krishna let this happen? Why did Krishna let them all run ahead? It was because Krishna is practically doing a home invasion now. He's going on Kaliya's own turf. People would think, hey, what's Krishna doing, just killing this random animal? Even animal rights activists, they say it's fine for some people to kill pests who are eradicating like cows and other things. Killing a pest, even Prabhupada says, if a mosquito bites you, then you're allowed to kill it. So Krishna, he didn't want to be unjust. That would take the sweetness away from the pastime. So he had to give reason for people to be like, oh, this Kaliya, he is bad. This is one reason why. Another reason why is Krishna, of course, knows, and Yogamaya knows even more than him, that this will intensify the beauty of the pastime. So they all rush ahead very quickly, and they all are running so fast they arrive simultaneously. And they all grab some water. They're so thirsty. And before they can even gulp the water, just by touching their lips, they all appear to have passed away. They all are there, and it's very sad, actually. We find Shukdev Goswami, he loves to describe pastimes in Bhagavatam. We know this when we read, Rohan Prabhu, my roommate, when he was reading first canto, he was telling me, he was like, I've never heard so many ways you can describe one person entering a city when Krishna is returning to Dwarka. He said, every single shlok is like this new, how beautiful is this poetry? Every single thing, all of these details and everything. Shukadev Goswami gives no description of the cows and the gopas in this state. Actually, we'll find in this whole pastime there's a lot of playing dead, but never the word mrityu, the standard word for dead, is used in this pastime. Because in general, it is, even if it is just a play, it is distasteful for Vaishnavas to say that the great devotees or Krishna is quote-unquote dead. This is why we say left their body. We use euphemisms. This is not some weird new development in Vedic life. We'll find other words being used. I can't remember now the specific word that was used. But we'll find other words used to describe this deathly state. But we won't find dead. No. Shukadev Goswami, even though he knows exactly what's going to happen, he doesn't use the word, nor does he describe the image. In the same way that Vaishnavas in general, they sort of don't, of course they worship the 11th canto, but it's a very different mood of relishing. Not so much we like to dwell on Krishna's pastimes of leaving, even though we know Krishna is eternal. These are not such happy images. So Shukadev Goswami, he doesn't describe it. But what we do know is that Krishna, he soon revives them with his merciful glance. And my spiritual master, he actually spoke for a fair bit on this merciful glance. Because in Sanskrit, the word that's used is ikshayamrita varshinya. Ikshaya refers obviously to the eyes. Amrita, we know amrit, nectar. And varshinya is like varsha. Varsha means the clouds. It can also mean land, but it can also mean clouds. So a varshinya is like the torrents that come down from the clouds. So Krishna's merciful glance was an ocean of nectar, like the torrents of rain that come from clouds. This is how his mercy was like. And my spiritual master was saying, actually, we should understand that this was actually a rather literal description. Krishna was not looking just at the gopas when he revived them. At seeing this, Krishna began to cry. He began to cry, and tears coming out upon seeing all of the gopas like this. I'll have to speed up the rest of the pastime. We haven't got up to Kaliya yet. I just lost track of time. But anyways, I'll skip over some of my notes. But as the tears are coming down, these tears come down like rivers. And they touch each one of the gopas. And as each one gets touched by all of these rivers flowing down, then they become revived. One by one, like this, they become revived. And they come back to life. And Krishna will grab some in his sorrow. And when they come into contact, again, with the ikshayamrita varshinya, the amrit coming from his eyes, like torrents, then they were revived. Here we find Krishna's darshan is absolute. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. And we find the purport. I say this pastime too many times, but I love it too much. Of when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri, and he chastised all his disciples for saying that they had darshan of Jagannath because they saw Jagannath. And he made it very clear that darshan means for the Supreme Lord to see you. But Krishna's darshans are very different. Because the gopas did not come back to life just by Krishna seeing them, at least in this way of telling the pastime. But when Krishna was brought to tears. So this is the most merciful darshan of Krishna. But how can we have such a darshan of Krishna? How could we have such a darshan of Krishna where Krishna is crying, crying upon seeing one? How can this happen? We do not have a Kaliya available to us. And even if we drank the poison, so many people are drinking poison today, but Krishna, he's not crying so much. People are willingly poisoning themselves, not just with literal poisons like alcohol, which is just poisoning yourself a tiny bit for entertainment, But all the other poisons of the material world, people are consuming poison all the time, but they are not, Krishna is not crying for them. Through his devotees he is. Through his devotees he is reviving them. He is curing them from their poison. So in this way we can say that the crying, merciful glance of Krishna, those tears are manifested as the Vaishnavas in this earth. We can say that. And that is one way to understand this. The tears of Krishna and sorrow for the poisoning that all of the people are drinking, or the poison that all the people are drinking in this world, are the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas are the merciful glance of the Lord. We can say like that. Another way, though, is we should remember, ye yatha mam prapadyante. Krishna reciprocates any mood which one comes before him with. Reciprocating whichever mood. And so this is why Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he would always say, if you want Krishna, you must cry for Krishna. Not that one obtains Krishna by thinking, oh, I really want Krishna, then takes a nap, has their lunch, goes back to work. 9 to 5 job, wanting Krishna. Not like this. One with so much intensity in every moment of their life should be crying for Krishna. And then, ye yatham mam prapadyante. Krishna will reciprocate that. And that most merciful glance, Krishna will reciprocate that mood. And then one will receive that life-giving glance, which gives life to all those gopas who are poisoned by Kaliya's poison. So this is another way to read. How can we obtain that? Ikshayamrita varshinya. We must learn to have the intensity on our behalf. Not as the Sahajiyas think, just by reading some esoteric pastimes, now I've obtained these very esoteric parts of the Lord. No, first we must deserve, then we must desire. Indra Prabhu says, how do we know when we deserve? When we desire enough. Anyways, so keep on going because I do actually want to get to the main point of the class, which is Krishna killing Kaliya. Not killing Kaliya, fighting Kaliya. So all the gopas, they come back to life. And they all say, oh wow, how did this happen? Krishna, it seems like he's brought life back to us. And they all discuss among themselves. They say, hey, do you know how this happened? And one of the gopas, he's like, come on guys, it's obvious, isn't it? Garga Muni, when he did Krishna's Jyotish, he said, this boy is very auspicious. So because he is a very auspicious boy, because of his very auspicious Jyotish, we have received some fortune. This is why we've been brought back to life. And another Gopa, he goes, you idiot. What are you talking about? Jyotish? We all know the real reason. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped a lot by Nanda Maharaj. So Narayan has blessed Krishna. And because of Nanda Maharaj's blessings from worshipping Narayan so much, Krishna has been blessed. Krishna himself is not so pious, but his father is really pious, and therefore we've all been blessed. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very favorable to Krishna because of Nanda Maharaj. And because of this, Narayan has given us some favor, and we have been brought back. So the Gopas thought like this. And of course, it's almost comical to think. Because we think, oh, Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which of course he is. But in all truth, all the greatest scholars who can delineate all of the great natures of Krishna being the absolute personality of Godhead bow at the lotus feet of such devotees who so sweetly speak like this about Krishna. So then, okay, I'll cut through the rest of my note. I wanted to finish on time today. So they keep on going, and they start playing a game, actually. And they take this game where one person grabs a branch and they throw it in between their legs. And throwing it in between their legs, the other Gopa, whose turn it is, he needs to run up a tree. No, the other Gopa needs to grab the stick. And the Gopa who threw it needs to run up a tree. And if he doesn't get to the top of the tree, before the Gopa touches him with that stick he threw, he's out. Game over. So they're all playing this game. They moved away from Kaliya lake because they thought, bit dangerous here. It's not too safe here. Mother Jashoda might get angry. But while playing this game, it became Krishna's turn. And so one Gopa, he throws the stick. And so Krishna throws a stick. I keep messing up the rules. Krishna throws a stick. And they're expecting him to run to some tree. But Krishna's Bhagavan. He knows what he has to do. And he starts running towards Kaliya lake. And all the Gopas are like, no, Krishna, it's not safe. Don't go. Don't go, it's unsafe there. But Krishna, he knows what he has to do. So he runs. And then, after running and they're chasing him, they're thinking, not only is Krishna silly for going to this place where it's unsafe, he's going to a place where all the trees are dead. Master strategy there, Krishna. They're all thinking like boys, and boys like to tease each other. So they're all teasing like this. But Krishna, he finds one Kadamba tree, and he climbs up it, and he goes to the very top. Now this Kadamba tree is very special. Prabhupada gives two explanations in Krishna book why this Kadamba tree was preserved. One is that it was touched by Garuda gave it some nectar. Garuda gave it some nectar to keep it alive. And my spiritual master, he was commenting on this. And he said that actually what happened, Garuda, when he gave this nectar to keep it alive, the real nectar that he gave was Garuda touched this tree with Garuda's lotus feet. And by touching this with his lotus feet, the lotus feet of the Vaishnava purified this tree. But having taste for the lotus feet of the Vaishnava, suddenly the tree began to hanker. And it said, I want to taste the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And with this intense desire, it waited and waited and waited. And even while it was being poisoned, with this intense desire, with this smaranam, like Prahlad Maharaj, all of these other trees were killed because they were not absorbed like Prahlad Maharaj in memory of Krishna. But this tree was meditating on the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas and of Krishna. And therefore it was preserved. And therefore, the moment that Krishna stepped upon it, it came fully to life. My spiritual master said it received full perfection in devotional service because of the intensity that it hankered for Krishna's lotus feet, this tree. And from there we can come a very deep purport. It is not that Krishna first stepped on it, and then it came to life. In order to have the lotus feet of Krishna be present, in order to access Krishna, one first must be touched by the Vaishnava. So first Garuda, then Krishna. Not Krishna on his own. So only through the Vaishnava we can access Krishna. So anyways, I will speed this up. So Krishna, he goes up and he goes, and we know he slaps his arms and he's all heroic. He ties up his hair, gets all ready to dive in. And when he dives in, all of the poison overflows. All of the poison leaves. And it said even at that point, that whole area became filled with nectar. Actually, all of the poison besides that which was inside Kalia was removed from the river. Big tsunami came out. And Krishna, he went down. Like an elephant, he was moving around very majestically. Elephants are both beautiful and intimidating. When the Muslim armies first invaded Persia, they'd never seen elephants before. And so they were ready to invade. And actually, militarily, they were on fire. They were just conquering place after place after place. Persia was the hardest place for them to conquer. And the reason why is all their donkeys and horses got too scared by the elephants because they'd never seen elephants before. So they were so intimidated, the horses would refuse to charge into battle. So we can think, elephants, we're used to like Hathi Mera Sati. So we think, elephants are very cute. But no, sometimes elephants can also be scary. But Krishna's was more on the Hathi Mera Sati side of things. Very beautiful, majestic swimming like this. And so, as we know, again, I'll abbreviate the fight. We know the fight anyways. Not that it's nice to hear again, but I don't want to go over time. So, Kalia, he wraps Krishna up and, the whole thing happens. And Kalia, he holds on to Krishna. And then suddenly, we know all of the gopas, gopis, everyone, they come. Because this pastime is special. There's only two pastimes in which all of Raj has darshan of Krishna. This pastime and Govardhan Lila. These are the only two. And Krishna, he enjoys this. This is why Krishna stays coiled up so much. Krishna could have expanded himself at any point, but he stays coiled up in order to bring all of his devotees. He wants all of his devotees there. He gets greedy. One devotee comes and he thinks, hey, this trick works. I want all of my devotees to come. And how do they come? Because all of the inauspicious signs happen. The earthquakes start happening. Meteors start going through the sky, and the left eye starts twitching. There's demigods in charge of each one. Now one might wonder, inauspiciousness in Vraj? Vraj is the most auspicious place of all. Why would the demigods in charge of these manifest inauspicious signs? And the reason given why is the demigods, while watching this, they understood the Aishwarya of it all. They are not blessed with the Madhurya rasa, with that rasa of sweetness. So they're aware Krishna's Bhagavan, but they are relishing so much seeing all of the gopas and gopis of Vrindavan enjoying with Krishna as if he was a normal boy, that they went along with the pastime in order to help cover up the Aishwarya of the pastime and intensify their love. The devas, they went along with this. And that's why the word deva, one meaning of it, one meaning of deva is he who enjoys nectarian pastimes. So therefore the devas, they are cooperating with the pastimes. And this is why Krishna is the greatest of all the devas. Krishna is the ultimate deva, because who enjoys nectarian pastimes more than Krishna? Yeah. So anyways, keep on going. So like this is happening, and they all come forth, and as we know, they all become very anxious seeing Krishna coiled up, and such wonderful descriptions we hear of every single member. They're all becoming more and more upset. And we know Balaram, he stops all the gopas, and some of the other gopis, they stop Mother Jashoda. Again, this is a very deep point, and I won't get into it too much, but it has to do with in Jagannath. There's a nice connection, because sometimes we hear Aishwarya kills Madhurya. But in the case of those devotees in Vraj, those devotees, Aishwarya only intensifies their Madhurya. Their Madhurya overcomes the Aishwarya. And therefore it becomes intensified. In the same way that a lion, when it kills an elephant, it becomes so nourished. The elephant is like the Aishwarya, and the lion is like the Madhurya. So Balaram, he is there, smiling, we hear in Bhagavatam. He's smiling because he knows what's going on. But the other gopas, when they saw him smiling, they thought, he's one of those guys from Dwarka, Mathura, these city people. They don't have any emotions. They're not rural like us, soft-hearted. These city people don't have any emotions. That's how this Balaram is smiling. That's what they're all thinking. Balaram is smiling because he's a heartless city person, hasn't experienced sweet rural life enough. They think, how could you smile at a time like this? But they all stop. Those who stop, those devotees who want to dive in, they are aware of the Aishwarya of the moment. They are aware that Krishna can survive this. He is Swayam Bhagavan. But by stopping those devotees, they intensify that sweet love they have for Krishna. And Krishna, he's enjoying this. This is why Krishna hasn't expanded yet. He's enjoying feeling that love his devotees have for him. And then though, when the last person arrives, Krishna thinks, now it's enough. And so we know Krishna expands himself and he begins to dance. He starts dancing on Kaliya's heads, 101 heads. He starts going. And initially, he's just putting, for his first step, he just puts his lotus feet on Kaliya's head to humble him. But then Kaliya lifts another head up. We know this. And he jumps from one head to the other. And slowly by slowly, it starts becoming a dance. Initially, Krishna, we know there's two types of dance. There's Kathak and there's Bharatnatyam. Bharatnatyam is popular in South India and Kathak is more popular in North India. Krishna, it's described, was doing Kathak style dance. And so he was dancing. And initially, he was setting his own rhythm, because to dance you need rhythm. So Krishna, he was actually saying, I don't know if you've ever seen Indian dancers dance, but they go like, tak, tak, dun, dun. I don't know if you've ever heard them. They say like the different syllables. My sister used to do it, so I have some faint recollection of like the syllables. So Krishna, he would speak the rhythm out for himself. But after a while, all the demigods, again, devas, they want to assist in the Leela, so they all appear. Indra is a fantastic mridanga player. So Indra, he's there on the mridangas. Narad, as we can imagine, on his veena, he's going. But everyone starts appearing in order to assist. All the Gandharvas, all the Apsaras, all of the Vaikuntha Vasis, everyone is appearing. And everyone is playing music, but no one is dancing. Only Krishna is dancing. It is like Govardhan Leela. All the eyes are on Krishna. If anyone else was dancing, they would not be assisting everyone's meditation on Krishna. Again, Sadhu Sangha, if there ever was any, is here. Everyone not concerned about what other people are doing. This person is dancing well, wow, jai. Or rather, this person dancing, thinking other people will see me dance well and think, wow, jai. No, everyone is cooperating in order that everyone can appreciate Krishna's dance even more. And in fact, the rhythm becomes so beautiful, so catchy, that at one point, Kaliya starts lifting up the heads that he does in rhythm. Kaliya even starts moving his heads in rhythm in order to help the dance look even better. Even Kaliya can't help, but sometimes music is really catchy and you see people, they start bopping their heads. Kaliya was bopping his heads like this, in rhythm with all of the dancing. And so Krishna was running around dancing like this. And there's lots of other really nice descriptions, but again, I'll wrap up now on the point of Krishna dancing. Because Krishna, while he was dancing, at one point, he's stepping down with such force on Kaliya's heads. And Kaliya's thinking, I've been hit by Garuda before, and that really hurt, kind of scared me enough to run all around the world. Kaliya thought, but each one of these steps is so much more. We know in Dhammadarashtakam, Namastestu damne spuradipti damne tvadiyodarayata vishvasya dhamne. Around Krishna's belly, if Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is just the source is in his belly all of the material planets are situated upon. And Krishna is the source of all the Garbhodakashayi Vishnus. Then what profound weight is on the belly of Krishna? Which is why it's so profound in Mother Jashoda. She conquers that. The devotee conquers all of material reality. So with this weight, Krishna, he's pushing down as if the whole cosmos is stamping on each one of Kaliya's heads. And so Kaliya thinks the only person who can hit harder than Garuda is Garuda's master. So who is above me? Purusham Puranam. That's how Bhagavatam describes Kaliya's thought. Kaliya says that original personality, except he's not lying down on Ananta Shesh right now. He's dancing on my heads, but this is that same original personality. And with that mood, he began to repent. And then at that point, Krishna, the moment there's even a sign of repentance, Krishna is done. Krishna is so merciful, actually. So, now to come to the point, tying it back to the purport. The reason why this is different is we hear in CC that Krishna, when he kills a demon, it is Vishnu killing. And it is Krishna who is giving the mercy. This is the only time when Vishnu wasn't involved. Because Krishna, he's not killing Kaliya. He is purifying Kaliya. And how is he purifying Kaliya? By dancing. This is not fighting. Vishnu does not dance. Vishnu cannot dance. Vishnu is not involved in this. So even though in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Kaliya is mentioned as one of the people that Krishna gave the mercy to, he is in a separate category to all these other names. Krishna's dancing. Only Krishna dances. This is why Lakshmi, we know in the prayers of Kaliya's wives, which we definitely won't get to, they glorify, they say, even Lakshmi couldn't see all of this beautiful dancing. So Vishnu, Narayan, they do not dance, but Krishna dances. Therefore it is Krishna alone who is purifying Kaliya. And therefore Kaliya, because we know of his wonderful wives, they would speak Hari Katha to him all the time. Please, Kaliya, stop being so demonic. And if we hear Hari Katha from the devotees, the Bhakti Lata Bij, it's impossible that it does not take place. So Krishna, he did not fight Kaliya with the intent to kill him and purify him through killing him. He fought Kaliya with the intent to water the Bhakti Lata Bij in his heart. To get rid of all of the envy. We know envy of the Vaishnava, envy of Garuda is the reason why Kaliya is in there in the first place. He danced on the heads of Kaliya in order to water that Bhakti Lata Bij, in order to water that creeper of devotion. So in reality, my spiritual master says, we sometimes refer to this pastime as a chastisement of Kaliya, but that is only the external consideration. From the highest perspective, there was no chastisement, there was only mercy. There was no killing, there was only purification. Sanatana Goswami, he very much describes, he actually says, Kaliya represents the misguided Kanishta, who because of offenses has strayed from spiritual life. And Krishna represents the severity of the chastisement that is necessary in order to purify such a devotee. So,